Hello, hello, and welcome to today's session of the Bold and Bodacious Sister Series. I'm Gabrielle Garofalo, and I am your host with the most, and I am delighted today to be featuring Winter Clark, who is an intuitive coach, and I'm actually going to have her introduce herself, and then we're going to dive in. So if you would please, first of all, thanks again for doing this with me. This, for those of you who may be tuning in for the very first time, is my personal journey and commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, particularly of Black women and women of color and Indigenous women, as we all really will, the world will be a better place when we are all equal. So this is my diving into the idea also for all you white folk that I thought I was so woke, and then I discovered I was faux woke. So that's part of my journey too. And I think it's going to be exciting to talk to Winter today because I truly believe that I also have an intuitive gift. While I am not driven by that passion, I'm excited to dig in with her about that topic. So Winter,
Yes.
welcome and take it away.
Thank you so much for having me here. It's exciting to be able to talk with you about these things and to talk a little bit about what I do and like how it all started. Um, yeah, my name is Winter and my practice is called SoulCall Coaching. And it's a culmination of like the work that I've been doing for some years in terms of channeled intuitive guidance and master energy healing. I realized that with the way that the world has like taken this turn with COVID, the pandemic, and all of that, it left a lot of people kind of wondering, like, now what? Like, we have like this new normal now, and so many people who are in their programs, like, like this remote control kind of situation, and then it's
Autopilot, I call it. Yeah, like everybody's
yeah,
on autopilot, right? Like you wake up,
totally.
like people thought it was Groundhog Day before COVID, and then COVID
Yeah.
happened. They were like, oh, this is really Groundhog Day. Right.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's this kind of this, um, a lot of people started realizing like, wait, I don't have to do what I was doing, or I can't do what I was doing. Now, what do I do?
And
And
or don't you think it's like I can still do what I was doing, but now I actually can do it in a whole new way?
exactly. Yeah. There was this, window of opportunity that opened for reinvention.
Yeah. Shout out to my friend Kathy Sharp's book. She actually wrote this before COVID, but it's so appropriate. Like I love
Mhm.
that word. I'm obsessed. And Quincy Jones wrote the forward, which I love. So
That's awesome.
big up Quince. Um, but I think that that is so true. Ooh, excuse me. And how? So so let's talk about soul call coaching, and let's talk about your story, which I love. So talk a little bit because this gets into a little bit of the discussion I love to have. Um, as a white woman who thought I understood and realized I don't understand your legacy, especially in this space, and how you as a woman, let alone a woman of color, sort of navigated your way into your calling and your knowing, like so beautifully. Like I when we first met, the one thing that struck me so much was how beautifully open and bright you are, a spirit.
Thank
And I
you.
think like knowing the oppression now um that your people have sustained, like that what we have created in this country, and like I've even been a part of, I love that it's so evident in you. Your light is so evident. So let's talk about your legacy and a little bit about how you chose the light in the face of all the crazy, and not to forgive it, by the way, right? Like that's my big disclaimer, white people. Just because someone seems okay doesn't mean it's okay. Okay.
Yes. So with my legacy in terms of the work that I do, it runs deep. Like there is a lineage that comes with my family, and it comes through my father's side. He was many things, but among them, he was Black as well as Native American.
Wow.
And so a large part of my childhood was spent going to powwows, being immersed in culture. And on my mother's side came the intuitive gifts. So my grandmother had a lot of connections to that. They had different abilities. So it's like these two sides like kind of came together, where these intuitive abilities and gifts combined with like this sort of Native American, African American sensibility, connection to the earth, to nature, to all of that, like how everything is connected. My gifts started unfolding at the age of 10, and then in this kind of like environment of, going to these powwows and being immersed in culture and learning like
Where
this
in the
other
country
side
were
of things.
you? Where
It
was
was
this?
I
Give
grew
people
up
some context.
mostly in New York, and then the rest of my childhood, like from high school onward, was in New Jersey.
Yeah,
So
so like
yeah,
I bet people are imagining like Arizona and
yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Like this is like, hi, I'm a Jersey girl, right?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Powwows are happening in the Garden
Totally,
State.
yeah. It's like where at the top of Jersey where it meets like upstate New York.
Yep, sure.
Yep. They would all happen up there. So every summer we would go.
Amazing.
And between that like environment and culture plus what I was able to do, what I discovered what I was able to do, um, it gave me a much different like perspective like
Of
on
the
the
world.
world.
So you're 10 and you now have what happens, and do you have siblings, and like just give us a little setting of the family environment, if you will.
Yes. I have two younger brothers. There was a girl who was born before me, but she passed shortly after childbirth. Um, so I have these two younger brothers, and at the age of 10, my first experience with being able to like connect with those who have passed on and like spirits and all that was actually meeting my sister, who we did not have a picture of. So she came to me while I was sleeping. And yeah, I just saw this face, this little baby face. I'm like, what's
Say
going on
what?
here? Yeah. And I woke up and I went to find my parents. They were downstairs in the basement. I told them what happened. And my mom started crying. And
Oh,
my
she
dad was
knew.
just like, that was your sister, Serena. And I was just like, okay. Just went back to bed.
10-year-olds are so nonchalant about their knowing, right?
Yeah, yeah. And my dad, when like before we were born, he also had connections to other cultures when we were all like still in when they were all still in the city. I found this out years later when I was much older, but my mother told me that he would attend like drumming circles, so, like
Mm,
Santeria and stuff like that. So, and that's Afro-Caribbean,
influence.
religions. And so I realized that he had ties to that as well. And then that stuff started popping up like for me a couple of years ago. But um, so they were both very deeply spiritual people, but from very different walks.
Yeah.
And so that experience of like meeting my sister who had passed on and they had no photos of was the beginning of like everything unfolding. So I realized that I was able to make contact with, communicate with people who had passed on. And I would tell my mom, like, I had this dream. And she would ask me, like, did the person look like this? Were they wearing this? I'm like, yeah, how did you know? And she's like, I see them in the kitchen at the coffee machine in the morning. So I'm just like, okay.
But are they related to you, or are they just people?
No,
So here's my question. Okay.
yeah, not at all.
So you're 10, you now have this experience. Your mom totally normalizes it, it sounds like, right? And your dad, which makes it acceptable for you to welcome it without fear, which I think is just for all you parents out there. That is such a beautiful parenting lesson. Like most of us parent from fear, like we hope we don't kill you, and if we don't kill you, we hope you don't die out in the world, right? And I think that this idea of something that's so intangible and really spirit and really comes from like a deep knowing, and I want to get into that in a second,
Mm-hmm.
um is really beautiful. And I think if we could give that to our children, that would like what a more beautiful world we'd live in, right? If we would just like, listen to that knowing, like
Absolutely.
you got out of bed that night for a reason, it wasn't just like a dream where most kids would have thought they had like some weird dream and rolled over and went to bed. So go from there to how you've come to coaching, because right, like some people who are watching this know I'm a life coach, right? Very different kind of coaching, although I love that we both are focused on passion. And as someone who really deeply believes and now is much more open to the signs, I do air quotes because I believe in signs, I see the numbers on the clock, right? 11, 11, 12, 12, 1, 11, 2, 22, 3, like most days I'll catch at least 2, 3, 4 of them, right? The red cardinals, the butterfly, the praying mantis, the dragonfly, like things, or if I ask for a sign, like one day I asked, was for like a fish, and then like a car went by with a fish bumper sticker, and I look up and I'm in front of the vineyard vines with the whale. And so, but if I hadn't sort of slowed down and through my own coaching certification learned to listen in and trust that I sort of think I've always had a little bit of a gift since I was little, because I would see dead people too, I feel like. What's the difference between us, right? Like those of us who are really called to use it and help other people use it, and people like me who notice it and would like to be more attentive, but sort of have been taught to blow it off. Can you talk about that a little? I mean, that was a lot of
Yeah.
things. Sorry. So it's
Yeah.
like how you got to it, what inspires you to help other people with it, and like, what do you do with someone like me?
Well, how I got to it was that there were moments when I was freaked out by what I was able to do, and I tried to like suppress it. But then once I moved past that point, I realized that it was a gift and that I could be helping others. And it was there for a reason. So it came into what it is now in the form of coaching, because the way that I was doing it before would be just like kind of like these single one-off sessions. Someone would come wanting answers, information, guidance, and then like we would do like an hour or two and then they would disappear. But then I realized that I was having some who would come back again and again. And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, people are going through a process. It's not necessarily
Yeah,
one and done.
right.
Like,
Like ask my grandmother if I'm on the right track, right? It's like, it's sort of like coaching work, it sounds like, right? Like it's, you don't
yeah,
go through a process once, you live the process all the time.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That,
So I saw that people were trying to like accomplish something, or they're trying to make a certain direction in their lives. And I'm like, this could totally support you in all of that and like help you tune into your own inner guidance system so you don't have to be reliant upon me like moving forward.
and literally, are you talking about IGS in the typical term IGS that some people train in IGS, or you're talking about your own? I guess it's all the same, really.
I didn't know that there was a technical term for it. I just called that to kind of simplify it. But really, for me, it means a deeper connection to heart wisdom, because as a society, we tend to live in our head. And that's where a lot of people get lost and disconnected from what they truly want.
Yes. So, okay. So talk about how generally, like, did your mom, you said your grandmother also was an intuitive?
She
So,
was, yeah. She used to host psychics and mediums in her house to do readings.
okay. Like, she made a living from it.
No, it was more of a curiosity for her.
Oh, okay.
She was an entrepreneur. She had her own dress design business. Like she designed ballroom gowns.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, she was a couturier. So that was her thing. And she had people in India like doing embroideries and stuff for her. Like she had a whole system.
That's so great.
But she was deeply like open and curious. And when she would take photographs, she was able to capture like people's energy and like spirits and stuff like that way.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And how about your mom?
My mom is able to um see people who have passed like while still awake. I've since like developed that ability too.
Oh, okay.
She also is excellent at palmistry, which
Is that palm reading?
yeah, palm reading, which I cannot do for the life.
I was like, have at it.
Yeah,
because that would be easy over,
I
Zoom.
know, right? Yeah.
So tell me about your specialty and what kind of clients you have and what kind of people you help, and also if your coaching business has shifted at all now since the wake of George Floyd's murder. Not that things haven't been awful for a long time, but I feel like for me, that was like, there was a big awakening that happened coinciding with his murder that I think, and Brianna, like, and Ahmed Arbery, Eric Garner, even, Trevon, I mean, like, Martin, we can go back and forth again, unfortunately. But do you think that people are now coming to you a little bit more because there's just so much more going on in the world? And how would you tell the people who might be watching this, right, how to just listen in when they feel like things are out of control? And what are we listening for? Are we listening for dead people? Are we, right? Like, and I don't say that sort of flippantly. I really mean, like, I want to try, hold please, because I have to show you her. But this is my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, who I really want to be one of my spirit guides. And I think she probably is, but she doesn't show up the way I think she's supposed to. So we'll talk about that next. But answer the first question first, which is about, given all the race and civil unrest right now in our country in an election year, how do people, there's some crazy shit going on too with the election year. So how do people really listen in? Because there's some people I know that I would describe as liberal and are now buying into the whole QAnon crazy. And I'm deeply upset, but I also want to be deeply empathetic and compassionate and also try and be heard. So can you talk a little bit about that?
What has been coming through with people that I work with, there is a lot of fear, there is a lot of uncertainty, and there is a lot of feeling very confused, like not knowing what to do, like lacking of clarity.
Yeah, like who to trust and what to listen to and
Yeah, exactly.
who
Yeah.
to
And like,
believe.
and it all kind of like ties into this general like distrusting of self.
Ah,
Yeah.
that's powerful.
Yeah. So, and I know that like with everything that's been going on in the world, it's been incredibly overwhelming um, to many people. And the thing is that so many don't realize like just how sensitive they are.
Hmm.
Like we all are as human beings, but um, like I was saying before, we're so conditioned to like be in our head and like not feel like,
Yeah.
and there's a disconnect between like the head and the heart. So when people are feeling overwhelmed, scared, anxious, uncertain, not trusting of the self, it's because they're not realizing that they're picking up on all the energy, all the things that are going on. And it's kind of like leading to this like mystery state of being where they're just like, I don't know how to do this kind of thing.
Yeah. Yes. And in a way, I mean, I think it is proving the fact that we are meant as human beings to be connected. And now we're forced to be disconnected, but yet connected because people are
Mm-hmm.
wanting to come together for Black Lives Matter and come together to solve the pandemic globally. Like we're seeing so much juxtaposition and push and pull. But I really want to go back, and I wish I'd made you say it again originally, but about this, when we come from a place, and I'm paraphrasing, so jump in and correct me, but what I heard was, and I loved it, when we come from a place of fear and unknowing and not knowing where to trust, like that frantic, like almost like I pictured as like a really fast ping pong game in your head of like, do I,
Mm-hmm.
don't I? It stems from a lack of trust of self.
Yeah.
Like that we really know the answer if we quiet down. And I guess that really hits the nail on the head about the thing I said about these what I would conceive as liberal minded people who are now believing things that are very promoting of the current president that seem asinine to me, but I think it is because they are scared shitless. Pardon my French. And
Totally.
they've stopped trusting. I'm like, just watch, listen to what he says. Like, forget all of the other stories that you can't really prove. Like, just string some quotes together and make your own decision, right? Like, I'm trying to simplify and not get all excited because I could feel my heart just like my heart rate just started racing. because I think people do forget to just in a way have common sense, but also if there is no common sense, because it's hard, right? Especially with COVID, which is such a sneaky disease, and I think is so unpredictable, and things we just don't have enough information yet to really control our lives in a way that makes it safe for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
um, I think that people are coming from a place of frantic and fear. And I also think, like, our society really encourages that.
Yeah, yeah, because there's so many like industries
That
that make
benefit.
money off of feeding off of fear, anxiety, uncertainty, right? It's the
So
that feeds
true.
the desire to consume. Like if I have more, then I'm going to feel better, but it has nothing to do with that.
Yes. Yes. Well, and I love how Brene Brown, who I'm a big fan of, I don't know if you're a
Yes, I
fan.
love
Yeah, I
her.
love her. It like connects the whole idea of scarcity with shame too. Like, we're just taught to be, oh my goodness, I can't believe, excuse me for 1 second. I'm going to have to edit this out of the recording. Stop it. I have a very naughty cat who's scratching our carpets on the other side. Now I'm going to make my daughter have to edit that out, but luckily I have a 13-year-old editing whiz. Okay, we're going to come back. So, how are there simple, I hate to use the word tips, but are there guide posts for people to start to listen to? Do you see him in the background?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna have to edit this out too. He's so distracting. I'm gonna like kill him. All right, go. Can someone take the cat? Take him. He's really. You're gonna have to edit my video now for me because you just ruined my recording. My daughter's like, I'll take him. I'm like, and now you have to edit for me. Okay. Take 3. When it comes to, we're coming into fall. For people who live in seasonal environments, we are going to be in more, right? I'm a Jersey girl. I'm already having like anxiety about the fact that, you know, there's COVID screening tests before school, and,
Mm-hmm.
it's almost the fall, and I have a feeling life's going to shut down again because I think the numbers are going to go up with us trying to be in school and all of the things, even as not a parent, right? Like work and people who are out of work and the election year and all of the news. How would you encourage the layperson who may not even buy into it, by the way, right? I'm sure that you're faced with plenty a skeptic about inner calling. And also, so how would you encourage the layperson? I'm trying to do one question at a time, to create a sense of calm through all of the things from your sort of, I would say, like, if there's a person at 0 who has no ability and you're at a 10 who has great ability, for anybody from 0 to 5, right, how would you help us know that there is guidance to be had, like your own inner knowing?
Okay. So there's like a range of tips that I can give for like the layperson who's like, I don't know about all this woo stuff, to like middle who's like, oh, I'm kind of in, kind of out, to like full blown, like I'm in it. Like, how
Yeah.
do I like,
How do I use
do
this?
this?
Right.
Yeah. So for the layperson, the most effective thing that the layperson can do is be mindful about what you're consuming, visually, audioly, like, so it's about curating your intake. So editing your
Yeah.
feed, hiding things, because all of that you're taking in that is contributing to your fear, your anxiety, your, feeling foggy, is just creating static.
Right.
So you need to just watch your media diet. Like,
We call it, in how I coach people, I call it an environmental detox.
yeah, yeah,
Like, what's in your junk drawer? Like,
yeah.
I get really nitty gritty about it, but yes, like, what are you reading? What are you watching? What are you listening to? What are you scrolling? what are you eating?
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole nother thing, like the food thing, but I think it's all related. It's like, yes, I love
Yes.
that. So,
Yeah.
and then I always say, like, see how you feel. Do 3 days where you curate and hide and unfollow people. You don't have
Yep.
to block people, but like there are discreet
Mm-hmm.
ways to do that on social, or
Totally.
just don't check 12 times a day. People put that little timer on their phones when they're
Yes, I was gonna say that.
there are little timers that you can set on Instagram or Facebook if you go on too much. I love my screen time report. I was down 15% last week, by the way, people. So I think that's great advice. And then
Yeah.
for people who feel like they've gotten the tap,
Mm-hmm.
like, wait a minute, like I see the time is always the same number,
Yeah.
or um, what say you about them? What do they make of the signs, or can they use the signs to affirm
Absolutely.
something, be guided in a way? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So for that middle realm, um, seeing those repeating numbers, the number sequences, there's a couple ways that you can use that sort of thing, and any other synchronicities. But with the repeating numbers, because I get it a lot too. What I've realized with those is that when you're being shown like 12, 12, 11, 11, whatever number sequence it is, two things are happening. The first thing that's happening is that you're being shown that you're in alignment, which
Mm,
is fantastic.
I love
It,
that.
yeah, it's like the universe is like, you're good, keep going,
Right. Keep
right?
doing what you're doing. Right.
Yeah. The second thing is like, if you're curious as to what that particular sequence means, I Google the numbers all the time to be like, what's the message coming in? So I just put the number sequence and angel number, and there's a specific message attached to them, whether
Oh,
it's
wow.
numerological or not. Yeah. And it's always very synchronous with what happens to be going on in that particular moment. So it's nice to have that. And with those two things, like, yes, you're in alignment, and if you want, there's a message waiting for you too.
Yes.
Yeah.
I should have done that. There was a day, I remember on August 8th, I happened to be journaling at 8:08 a.m. And I was like, oh my God, it's 08:08:08. Like I was like freaking out, but then I just went into my meditation to see if I could hear whatever the universe was telling me. Um, so then there's like people like me who definitely know, like I know for sure, because I also believe that my like friend's dead mother channeled me to her, and like shows up in the version of a cardinal every time we're together and something serious is going down in her backyard. Like I'll hear her call the bird calling before it shows up. Right. So, but I don't know. I'm always like, okay, like, I don't know. Is there like, I'm not getting it. Like, I know that there's something happening, but I don't know what to do with it.
There's also meanings attached to the different birds and animals that come your way
Okay.
also. Um, and there's a way to look that up too with the animals that come your way, looking that up in animal and spirit guide.
Okay.
And see, with that connects more into like the Native American
Mm,
wisdom, because with the Native American mentality, at least with what I grew up with, plants, animals all have wisdom.
love.
There are family, like
They're
it's
meaning
all
for everything.
connected.
Right.
Yeah, so like there are elders because they've been around for longer than we have as humans.
Right.
So there's a way to look them up with like, let's say like cardinal, like animal totem or cardinal spirit guide, and they have messages as well. For like
You know
the
what I'm doing after this, right? I'm gonna be on Google all afternoon with my spirit numbers and animal totems. I'm
totally.
just gonna
Yeah.
hire Winter to do some stuff with me and for me and with me.
Yes, because when you start noticing and then starting looking into it, showing your curiosity, then it's like the universe is like, oh, you're paying attention now. Cool. We're gonna send you some other things too. So
Yeah.
it begins to build a relationship with source in that way.
Yeah, I truly believe that. I came into Gabby Bernstein's world. I don't know if you know who she is. And then
Yeah.
actually I got picked from, like, I showed up during, like, I was literally I was promised myself I wasn't going to touch my phone. I set the timer for like whatever it was, 35-minute work block. And I was like, that's all I'm going to do. And I had it behind me, and something was like, go on Instagram. And I was like, I shouldn't be going on Instagram. And I went on, and she was doing one of her Ask Gabby's, and we did a live, and then she gifted me with her journal. So I've been doing her journaling meditation for 90 days where you align with spirit to try and call forth, right? And she does a breathing pattern. And I feel like one of the things that she encourages is, if you're in doubt about the universal alignment, ask for a sign, like anything, and don't even focus a lot, like just close your eyes. And I remember the first time I did this practice and I came up with a key. So I was literally thinking like a key. And the next thing I consumed was like 4 sentences that had the word key in it like 3 times. And I was like, whoa. And then like I turned the TV on and it was a key commercial for a local locksmith. And then, I'm walking down the street and there was like a key in the gutter. It was the weirdest thing because it seemed so esoteric. But I am like, oh, okay. Like I'm looking around like, I still don't know what it means, but thank you. So how do we start understanding what it means? Do we continue to Google things, or when you ask for a sign, is it enough to know that just keep listening in? Like, what would you say about that? And you and I can get into it when I hire you about my personal signs, but for people who are like trying to test the universe and then the universe is like, yup, then what do they do? Right?
Well, I mean, it's really a personal choice, because some people will test the universe and the universe is like, yes. And they're just like, okay, that was enough for me. And then there are others who are just like, ooh, like I want to see what else is possible. And with that, it can kind of go into like all sorts of directions, whether people are feeling more drawn to like ritual and like ceremony and beginning, because since it's all connected, like we have the moon cycles, we have crystals. So there's so many different paths that like one can choose. You could be working with plants, like doing different herbal teas, like, connecting in different ways. Tarot cards, oracle decks. So it's really like wherever you're feeling like the most curious, like follow the thread of curiosity, because it's going to bring you to that next point where the universe wants to like meet with you and show you some more things. Curiosity is key.
Okay, so now you've just made me want to do something for the people. So I have a Gabby Bernstein card deck here in front of me, and I'm going to just start flipping the cards, and you're going to tell me to stop, and then we're going to read it for the people. Okay. And I'm going to start flipping. I feel like this is like we're going to show people what they need to hear.
Okay, stop.
I love this. The universe
Exactly.
has big plans for me, and it's time to claim them. I love that. So what I want the people who are watching this to know is that, first of all, Winter, I want you to tell people how to find you. And then, of course, I'll post all the links when I get this live. But if you could tell, God, we didn't even get into any of my questions, but we're like at the half hour. So we just like, oh my God, that was so exciting. So what would you say that you want, and this is specific to women because just I'm so passionate about helping women specifically, but what do you want all women to know? What do you want them to know about listening to their inner knowing?
I want women to know that this is the time, and it has been a long time coming. Like the divine feminine, the sacred feminine has been rising for a while now, but it is especially important now to reconnect with your inner knowing, to reconnect with your heart wisdom, to follow that knowledge that you do have within you. Because to be led like and be in that head energy is very masculine energy. This is where the feminine lives. This is where the heart wisdom lives. And when you start redeveloping, reconnecting that relationship with your heart, no matter what you do, as long as that decision is made from the heart space, you will not regret it. It's the core of your being. It contains your divine essence. It's all that you are.
Yes, and it's high time we stop subscribing to the idea that it has to be by somebody else's creation.
Yep.
You know, and I want to just say this because I get to be like, I get very feministic about it, which some people interpret however people want to interpret that. I don't care. But some people think that doesn't mean that you can still embrace, if you love being a wife and a house person that takes care of your home and your children, that is awesome. And if people are shooting on you that you shouldn't love that, I think one of the things we're trying to tell you is like, block out the noise. And if you're
Yes.
someone who's craving being out of the house, if you are home with your children and you're like, you are called to something, follow your calling. And if you are, you know, in a life partnership with someone or in the closet and want to come out, listen to your heart. Because the other thing is we only get one rodeo.
Yep.
And we have so been ingrained to just like conform and quiet down and fall in line and don't question and don't feel and don't show your feelings, right? So,
Yep.
you know, I just want to sort of give us this disclaimer that I don't think either Winter nor I, no matter how we show up in our worlds, have any idea of what that's supposed to look like for you. That's the point of listening to your own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it can be scary because once you start tapping into that, there's like a whole wealth that's been like hidden there for so long, and it's part of your wildness.
You
Like,
can't unring that bell. Yeah. Once you know, ladies, you know, it's like ruh-roh, spaghetti-o. Like, yeah, you can't unknow the knowing. But I will tell you, even if it is terrifying, I'm so glad you brought that up. It sets you free.
yeah.
Yeah, it sets you free. Oh my gosh, I can't think of a better note to sort of wrap on than the idea that your own freedom is within your grasp, like at any
Mhm.
moment. You know, I love the Eckhart Tolle thing that says, you know, pain is inevitable but suffering is optional. It's
Yep.
like freedom really is at your fingertips and you get to define what that is. So Winter Clark, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here and part of my bold and bodacious sisterhood.
Thank
And I
you.
can't wait to hire you. So people, you know, for anybody who follows me, you're going to be hearing more about my intuitive guides as I learn more how to access them and use them for good. So thank you so much. And I will be in touch and I can't wait for the world to see this.
You're welcome.
Have a beautiful day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.